there, it's Susan, and it is Wednesday, my Facebook Live on Wednesday, and I'm talking about acceptance. And a lot of these gems come from my groups, the things that we're talking about in the groups that I run. And last night we were talking about accepting, like the people in our lives that we have to accept because we want to keep knowing them and finding a way to be engaging with them that's comfortable, and the things in the people that we don't feel like we need to keep around, and how to set boundaries with them and knowing when it's time to do that. So acceptance of somebody is really important. Sometimes we go through many cycles of trying to figure out what it is that's making us uncomfortable and trying to adjust ourselves to 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 getting along. And all of that is good research, but at the end of the day, I think it's important. And what we came up with in our group was that it's really important to think about what are the ways that you can engage with someone and accept some of their idiosyncrasies, but not get so involved with them, and reposition yourself in the dynamic so that you're not feeling really upset by it. So sometimes we have family members that are really hard to get along with, and we have to make a decision if we're going to keep seeing them, when we probably are, that we have to make it work for ourselves. So maybe sometimes it's thinking outside of the box and reminding yourself the kind of positions that you don't want to get in with that person, or you don't want to feel like you're getting your feelings hurt by that person. So we came up with 3 things to think about. One is to keep reframing what you have in common with that person, and what's the shared value and the shared goal of having that relationship. And maybe in that, you can find a way of detaching from sort of the way you think it should be, or the way that you want it to be for yourself. Like, all of our relationships don't get to fill all of our needs. But I don't know if you're familiar with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. One of our biggest needs is belonging and being accepted. It's a really important one. And so that is a two-way street. So if we're with someone that's hard to get along with, that's upsetting for us, we also have to adjust ourselves on how we're going to feel like we can belong with them. How can we get our need met in that way, that we can actually feel okay in their presence? Not just like how can we accept them, but how can we also feel that we have an acceptable way of being with them for ourselves. The other is, aside from commonality, is to not, again, take things personally. I think when we take things personally, that someone might be making a choice or doing something different than we do it, that oftentimes is taken as an insult or an affront. And maybe that's not what it is at all. And I talk about the idea of taking things personally a lot in my groups and on these lives. And it feels like that's one of the biggest things to learn how to do, is not take things personally and really put yourself in the other person's shoes to think about how they might be experiencing something. And I think the other piece is, what was the other piece? Yes, I don't know why I had to look down to think of this one, is to take care of yourself. So above all, if you're feeling like you're in a situation where you're upset with someone, that taking care of yourself around that is so important. Like, are you in your body? Are you thinking? Are you feeling? Are you calm? Can you take a break? And do you know when to take a break? Because sometimes being upset with someone doesn't get better unless you do take care of yourself and take a break. So remember that. That's so key. Another thought that I had was the whole idea about knowing when it's okay not to accept somebody. So sometimes we have toxic relationships around us. The people that we can never figure out how to get along with, we can never feel good around. Whatever it is, it might not even be them. It might just be a dynamic that gets created. But it's okay to let go of some people in your life and to set a boundary. And sometimes when you do that, it might be really hard to do, because again, setting boundaries and telling somebody that you don't want them in your life anymore can be really, really painful and stressful. But you might notice how you feel afterwards. And this might be the sort of noticing that you feel throughout the friendship, is that there's that maybe the relationship is that it's really difficult to have continually good times with this person, that there's always something that comes up that you have to work out, and so it's not peaceful for long. So it's really a measure of your own comfort level and what's getting pushed in you, especially if you've really examined your own self-growth and tried to figure out how to develop some of the parts of yourself that might need to change and grow to be socializing or with somebody who's really different from you. So it's a real balance to make that decision. A lot of my clients talk to me about that they are in relationships with narcissistic people, and that they feel like those relationships are incredibly toxic, and that for them to be away from those people is important. So I really want to talk about narcissism next week in our conversation, because I know that there is also healthy narcissism, and I want people to understand what that is and the 4 types of narcissism, and when it's healthy and when it's not, and that you can sort of see the telltale signs of if you're in a toxic relationship. This is all about my series of codependency, and one of the parts of codependency is actually maybe over accepting people in your life, and also taking things personally, and not taking care of yourself, and not having boundaries in relationships. And so a healthy acceptance of another person really means, if you're working on your independence, I guess, not your codependence, is making sure that you have good boundaries, that you have a sense of yourself in the relationship, that you take care of yourself, that you have a say, and that you identify how not to take things personally if you're feeling like that person just does things completely differently than you. So that is some of my thoughts from today that were inspired by my group. And next week, I'll look forward to talking to you more about narcissism, healthy narcissism, and toxic relationships and narcissism. So I'll look forward to seeing you then, and have a great week in the meantime. All right, bye-bye.